Good evening, and welcome to the regularly scheduled Clawson City Council meeting of September 4th, 2018. This meeting is now called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a prosperous community. We ask this in your sons and daughters' confidence in your goodness and love. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen. Roll call, please.
Woolley? Here. Councilmember Aris? Councilmember Milan?
Here.
Councilmember Moffitt?
Here.
Councilmember Ulbrich?
Here.
The first item on the agenda is the consideration of approving the consent agenda that includes the minutes of the regular city council meeting that was held on Tuesday, August 21st.
Mayor, I move the consent agenda be approved as listed.
Support.
Were there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Ulbrich?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes. The next item on the agenda is consideration of approving a resolution for the rescission of CM 08-15718 regarding litigation as discussed in closed session that was approved at the August 8th, 2018 meeting. This is on the agenda because our city attorney has advised us to approve a resolution rescinding the action and then changing the motion to reflect additional information.
Madam Mayor, I move the council for the City of Clawson does rescind the action previously authorized by CM 08-15718 at the August 8th, 2018 meeting.
Support.
Were there any additional comments that would like to be made? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Moffitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Ulbrich?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
To follow with consideration of approving a resolution directing counsel for the City of Clawson to engage in settlement discussions with opposing counsel in the case of Pet Boys versus City of Clawson. The city attorney, Mr. Kingsept, has advised us to approve a more clearly defined resolution regarding the pending litigation with the City of Clawson. He will be available for review of the proposed motion if approved.
Mayor Woolley, I oppose the resolution directing counsel for the City of Clawson to engage in settlement discussions with opposing counsel in the case of Pet Boys versus City of Clawson be approved and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the settlement agreement. Support.
Any questions, comments at this time, Mr. Kingsept?
No, none.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ulbrich?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffitt?
Yes.
And the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is discussion of the selection process of the new police chief. And Mr. Pollack will provide some additional information.
Yeah, I did have Mike add a police chief process memo to your packet. I just gave a brief history of police chief hire in Clawson. I mean, that isn't necessarily relevant to this, but I just thought it'd be good to take a look at the history of Clawson. And as far back as anybody could remember or determine, the only exterior appointment to police chief was on an interim basis was Bruce Henderlight back in 2002. And that was people that have been in Clawson since then. That was a time of turmoil with the Clawson Police Department, and examination at the time to see if the city was interested in teaming with Oakland County Sheriff and handling police services at the time. So he was brought in on an interim basis at that time. All of the hires, other than Bruce, have been done internally, and my recommendation, as I mentioned in the report, was since we had extremely qualified, excellent candidates internally, that we stick with that process, and we handle this through an internal posting and interview process. That's my recommendation to council, and again, I seek your direction on how you would prefer that be handled, but that was my recommendation.
I want to start the discussion. I was, appreciated the memo, but I was disappointed that this was information that came so late in the process. We've been discussing the police chief process for several months, and at no time did I hear that we had a policy in place on how they were handled. And so I just wanted to mention that I found this a surprise position to have. And I think that my feeling was that we probably do have qualified people, but I wanted to see us make sure that we were looking at all candidates, and I understand there's pros and cons with that process. So looking for additional comments from council.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I get that we have some candidates that we think are very qualified, but we don't know that until we look at the entire pool of applicants. My only concern at this point is that some of the decision makers are so swayed against outside candidates that they, aren't going to be looked at based on their merits, and there'll be just a drive to move forward with hiring the internal candidates without fully evaluating who comes to us from the outside. So I'm concerned about the ability for the process to move forward at this point. If we do give the direction for it to move to looking at outside candidates, I think it's a fait accompli at this point because there's such pushback from looking at outside candidates.
I don't think that's really a fair statement. He's just given his opinion of how it's been done in the past and giving respect to the people who are currently here, and there are benefits to both. And I think opening it up to the outside would just give the people who are here even a stronger presence because they would have clearly factors that other people would not have, a skill base that other people would not have, but I don't think it's fair to call out a professional and say that they're not professional and they may not look at everyone individually because
Just
of
based
course
on the
they would.
pushback we've received time and time again. I mean, we made it clear at a council meeting, we've said it several times, that it was our desire that it go to the outside, and we constantly are getting pushback on that process. And so
Pushback would mean refusal to do what asked. That's not happened yet. So far, he's given an opinion on the way things have been taken place in the past and what his personal preference would be. His personal preference is a personal preference that can be overridden by a consensus, and that's fair. I just think we should be professional with the people who we're expecting to be professional at the same time and not to degrade their ability to act in a professional manner on our behalf.
no intention to degrade, just, saying for the record that we've given a direction in previous council meetings. It hasn't been followed. And my personal concern, which I'm entitled to my personal opinions, is that I have a concern about the ability for the process to move forward given the pushback that we've received. Those are my words and my opinion.
I think that staff will do as we direct. I'm going to be optimistic in that regard.
I've kind of, my mind has changed a little bit on this as I've had time to think about it, and I do think that we should pursue an internal posting and an internal hire, frankly. I think we have qualified candidates internally, and it would save us a lot of time and cost. And I did want to point out, because it has been asserted in the past that the hiring of a chief of police is the city manager's the responsibility for that belongs solely to the city manager. And even the city charter was mentioned in those assertions, and I just wanted to point out in section 4.12 of the city charter, it does say that the manager shall, with the advice and consent of the council, appoint a chief of police. So I just wanted to point out that the process, whatever it is, would require the consent of council.
Right. And I have no intention of clouding the process. If council wishes, I can remove myself from the selection process. That's something I can do. Let it be decided by others. I had recommended city clerk. Mike's been involved in multiple hires, especially recently. And then we always pull a couple of people from outside that are not familiar with the city and how it operates and its department. So I'm trying to suggest that our best result would be an internal selection because we have qualified candidates. And, you know, if there's some reason to remove me from the process because someone believes I can't be fair, then I would take that recommendation.
What's the timeline on doing this, Mark?
The position regardless would be posted next week, next Monday. The resumes would be taken, again, it moves. If it's internally, the resumes would be accepted by the 20th of September. Interviews would be taken the following week or performed the following week, and the decision could be made by the 1st of October. If it's external, then we'll need at least 10 more days on each one of those timelines. So it would likely take until mid-October for a selection, and then my recommendation would be if it's an external candidate that they would start November 5th, which would give them just about 2 months to work with the current chief because he's leaving December 31st.
After talking with several individuals on the department, I tend to agree with you, Mark, from an internal process, because it's just not the top issue that we're talking about. If there ends up being a promotion internally, it does instantly have a morale impact to everybody else because all the individuals beneath will be able to look for a new hire, look for getting off the midnight shift that they've been on for years and years because there isn't a new hire position. So if we ended up hiring externally, everybody stays in place because there isn't room for another member in the force. And I agree, we have qualified people on the department. My initial concern was to make sure that we are vetting this properly. But I trust the people that we have in place. You know, I know they're great, and I know that they are really dedicated to the city of Clawson. So I may change my mind on saying that we have to have an open external process.
Is there a motion that needs to be made this evening to instruct?
I think Mike's prepared. I would prefer a motion. That way I'll have clear direction from council.
Mr. Smith, was there you're prepared for us to make a motion?
Direct
Sorry.
administration to.
I thought he prepared a motion.
No, just to direct administration to post the job internally. I guess that's pretty much, John, would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Do you need to have a vote on that?
Yes, if there's a motion.
So there's a motion.
No, Madam Mayor, I move that we instruct city administration to post the job opening for chief of police internally and solicit internal candidates.
Support. Roll call, please.
Mayor Woolley,
Yes.
Councilmember Milan,
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett,
No.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
And the motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consideration of list of bills as presented.
Where's that?
Are there,
Madam Mayor, I move the list of bills be approved as listed.
Support.
were there any questions on the bills for Mr. Pollak? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Milan?
Yes.
Councilmember Moffett?
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Woolley?
Yes. And the city attorney's report.
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay. City manager's report.
I just had 2 items. Just a reminder, with Labor Day being yesterday, trash will be picked up a day later, so please put your trash out on Wednesday evening or Thursday morning. And then, I'm not sure what specific sections of the city, but DTE did start sending letters out regarding tree trimming. I got one in my home, and it's supposed to be the northwest section of the city. So if you receive a letter, there's information on it regarding your recourse, or regarding them being in your yard, leaving a door hanger. And if you have any questions, they've addressed many things on a website, questions specifically about trees, because I think the last time they did this, they had upset residents that they were going to completely remove trees or hack up trees, and they want to make sure that the residents are clear on what specifically they're going to be doing. So if there's going to be a trimming of a tree, the idea is not to kill the tree, is to make sure it continues to live, but they do have at least a 10-foot radius around power lines to trim back. And then if they believe it will harm the tree when they trim it, they will recommend that it be taken down. So you'll start seeing them. Generally, they'll send out crews. They may, if your yard's posted beware of dog or something, they won't go back there, but they'll do their best to assess from the rear yards. And if they are going to trim a tree in your yard, you'll get a door hanger that says that they're going to do tree work, and then it'll have information if you have any questions and you're trying to get the timing. Again, if you do have a pet that you want to keep inside the house, all that information will be available from them. But they are starting, because currently that's the biggest source of power interruptions is trees. So they want to be vigilant in the area it's the same area that they're doing replacement of poles and equipment in. So they're going to be, according to Mike, they're going to be very vigilant this fall in removing and trimming back trees. So if you get one of those letters, it has information on it. And then, as always, if you have any issues, call that toll-free number assigned to Clawson. That's all I have.
I have some questions. I want to find out if you can find out what's going on with 400 South Main Street. I know that there was some work with the prosecutor on addressing some concerns on that property, and I don't know that there's been any update on that. In addition, any follow-up information regarding the chicken question from the previous meeting. I guess I wanted to clarify, while looking at the meeting, I felt that it was misrepresented on my position on chickens and Clawson. And my motivation was that I was contacted by a resident that has neighbors that have chickens, and they've had those chickens for over a year, and that resident has multiple times contacted city staff to address the problem. There hasn't been any movement on it. I talked to Mr. Pollak in regard to that almost 3 weeks ago, and when I spoke to the resident today, there's been no communication whatsoever from anybody in the city in regard to the issue, and nothing's changed. There are still at least 5 chickens and a coop. I took a picture of 5 chickens from the sidewalk, and you can see the chicken coop from the sidewalk of the front of the resident's home. And so I want to see us address that. It's on our ordinances. It shouldn't be there.
They did get a letter. Barb did address every residence that she's aware of that has chickens received a violation letter, and they were given a certain time frame to remove the chickens. And then she'll be back at that time to make sure they're removed.
Which that's great, but I guess what part of what I want to start seeing us do is contact the resident that had the issue.
Okay.
That a follow-up, that something is being done on their behalf, because as of today, they think that nothing's been done because nothing's changed. And it's been mentioned in the past, we don't want residents to feel that they have to come to city council in order to get something done. And I think, we need to start establishing some faith that we're going to do something about it, the first time they call, not the third, fourth, fifth. So I just want to make sure that we start being more diligent in that. Any other comments, questions? Any unfinished, city clerk's report. I'm sorry, Mr. Smith.
No problem. Madam Mayor and Council, I do have a few things. Excuse me. The RFP for planning services was posted on the Michigan Association of Planners on August 23rd, as well as on our city website. So we have until September 20th. We have not received anything as of yet, but it was the holiday. So hopefully once they come in, then we'll have that process over the next couple of weeks to accept them. I did participate in an ad hoc advisory meeting with Oakland County Board of Commissioners on August 30th to discuss the August primary election. There will be another meeting on September 13th in Southfield, and I believe they stated that once the findings are made and everything is put on file and record, the commissioners will come to a determination of, I guess, how to handle whatever the situation is. But there are many clerks in attendance. I will attend the next one as well and hopefully have time. I did submit my letter, which I copied you guys on as well, to the board, and they accepted all of those and put those on the record. So I wait to see what their findings are. Clearly, this will not happen again for November, as we just ordered, and basically we ordered probably like 110% for ballots, so we will be perfectly fine for November. It's just moving forward with any August elections that we're trying to fix. I did receive, if you've seen in the many news outlets, a large FOIA request for all of the 2016 November ballots across Michigan. This group did target some of the states that were extremely close in their, I guess, results in the November 6th, 2016 election. So I did send out a 10-day extension, and we'll be working with that. The state and city attorneys advised us, just like every other clerk, the November election is priority. So we will handle that. We will do all that. And then as soon as we can get to the other thing, we will work with that, work on a quote. It will be expensive, and I've heard that they're paying. So it will be as such. And they are asking for all copies of all ballots and all envelopes. And we are going to make sure that everything is handled appropriately. And we will be advising you on that as that date comes closer. We did offer the administrative clerk position in the treasurer's office. The individual did accept and will be starting September 17th, so that process is completed. And I believe Doug, Matt, and myself will be interviewing applicants for the open DPW position in the next couple weeks or so. I just wanted to congratulate, I believe, Stacy Hodges. I think she stated that she was recertified for state treasury, so that's good. And Detective Dale Mills is hitting his 10-year anniversary on September 8th, so just wanted to let you know those. And then I guess on the sad news, Brian Wiper, a former DPW employee, he passed away. And there is a service, if anyone's familiar with him, he worked for the city for 25 years. They will be doing a celebration of life at the Clawson City Park Pavilion on September 7th from 4 to 8 p.m. I know a lot of people knew him over his time, but it was Brian Wiper. Just was advised of that. And I guess back to I got my wonderful letter from the Attorney General office. Both my charter amendments were approved. So we will move on, and now we'll see what the voters say. So this was my first step, and we'll continue that each even year. So thank you for all the work with John and with everyone. That was quite a learning process. So I was happy to see that letter. So that's all I have.
You have to frame that in your office.
Yeah, should my first step.
First one?
Yeah.
I'm just going to circle back. I'm not sure if it's for Mike or Mark. Where are we with the additional code enforcement officer? Did we post it? Do we have any applications back?
Yes,
Did we
I
do any
apologize.
interviews?
Jim and Barb have been doing interviews. I believe they're interviewing 5 people I think they already did 3, and they have 2 more interviews scheduled, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Unfinished business? New business? Public discussion? Public discussion is now closed.
Madam Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Moffett,
Yes.
Councilmember Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Woolley,
Yes.
Councilmember Milan.
Yes.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.